We're going to call the regular school board meeting to order, show that all board members are present. First, we need a motion to approve the agenda. Moved by Sixbury. Second by Brown. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have anyone for open forum? Okay, there's no one for open forum, so we're going to move on to the consent agenda. The previous minutes from the January 28th regular board meeting and the February 11th work session. Claims and accounts in the amount of $1,497,724.62. The credit card report, the personnel report, fundraisers, extended field trip requests that are listed, the amended SRO contract, and approval of the one read policies. Moved by Sixbury.
Second.
Second by Nelson. Oh, do you want to? Yeah. Yep. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Shabilian is going to.
I'm going to abstain from this.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries with one abstaining. Okay, on to donations. I will make a motion to approve the donations. Second by Sixbury. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. On to American Indian Parent Advisory Committee annual update.
All right. Hello, my name is Ben Bonnet, and I oversee our American Indian Education Program. And I'll let Raven introduce herself in just a moment, but you can go to the next slide. So we just want to do an annual update to let you know kind of what's happening in our program. So as we look at making sure that we're using the funds in the way that MDE states, these are the 6 different areas where we need to make sure that we're spending the funds and making different steps to be able to achieve these different pieces. Every year we have to create a plan and we submit it to MDE. They review it. We go back and forth if there's any changes that we need to make sure that we're using things the way that MDE requires. So these are just, like I said, just the different areas, and we'll go into depth a little bit more later about these different areas. All right, next slide, please. All right, so as far as numbers, to know how many American Indian students we have at Big Lake, this just lays it out. And the amount of funds that we get from MDE each year is based on the number of students that we have. So the more students we have, the more our funds go up, that kind of a thing. And what we've noticed as we continue to build this program, word gets out, and other families that may have not said before that they were Native American, they let us know that they indeed are. And so we're able to change that, and our numbers have increased because of that. And there's a lot of great things happening in the program, so I'll let Raven share a little bit more about that.
Our parent committee voted concurrence. They like what you guys are doing for them and me. I meet with the kids each school, so Liberty, Independence, every other week for about 30 minutes. We do some crafts, we talk. The little ones, it's more they're controlling the show, but I'm creating a community, and friends that wouldn't have been friends. See, we are having a powwow this weekend, and we've turned most of our APAC meetings into meeting and then a craft. They really like that. I think that's bringing a bit more. We haven't done a college visit yet, but it is on the plan. I just took a field trip today with the middle schoolers. We went to the Indian Museum, Relax. I like that we do the literacy totes for the preschoolers. They get involved then. Their parents get excited, and yeah.
Has the amount of kids grown?
Oh, yeah. Yep. And parents that showed up, last year it started with 3. Now we're at like 30, 21, 30. So, yeah. Yep, yeah. I think next slide is mine too. This was our holiday party. We made ribbon stockings and little ornaments filled with the 7, can't think of it now, 7 herbs that are important. This one's for me? Yeah, the parents give me suggestions on what they want their kids to, hear about more. The school has done a good job creating the curriculum for the teachers. And I will use our money to put on programs or help them if they need tutoring, or even driver's ed is covered now, so. And then, yeah, I meet with the parents once a month. The biggest amount, the most popular parents are the ones with the little ones. So, yeah, the kids are like, we're going.
Raven, I was just going to ask about the driver's ed. Is that something you just let all your families in high school know about? And
Yep,
then
I start telling middle schoolers.
Is that a grant? I mean, like, do you pay for the tuition? Do you help get them there? Like, what does that support look like?
Which one, the driver's ed one? I let them know, and then when it's time, they'll come to me and I say, you give them my name, my department, and then they send us the bill. For tutoring, I haven't had to use it yet, but I know that the high school offers free math tutoring after school, right? But yeah, no one has come to me about that. I mention it all the time.
And then, yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
Hmm?
And that's the main thing.
Yep, they're very excited.
As students are meeting together with Raven, as families are coming together monthly, it's becoming a really strong community, and we're intentional to make sure that we're bridging the district and the different things that are happening around the district with these families, so they're more involved. And I think basically pretty much every month when the APAC meets, there's new families there almost every month, so it's just growing and growing. And again, everything that we use the funds for, kind of everything that we do in our program, is first approved by MDE and their guidelines, and so that's kind of our governing body for that. But part of that then is every year the APAC comes together and they do their vote of concurrence, and they just did that on February 18th, and so part of the steps then is to bring that information to you and get some signatures, and then we'll send that into MDE to let them know that the APAC feels very favorable about the ways that we're using to support American Indian students. And so this is our 3rd year in a row when they've been concurrent, so there's a lot of really good things happening in this program. Next slide. So any other questions that you have about our program?
Just one more question. With the funding, and I know that the legislator through a statutory process sets aside funds, and I'm so glad that Big Lake is using them. I'm glad that the APAC believes that we're using them effectively, and I know I've heard nothing but good feedback, so thank you, Raven. I was just curious, so we get that $63,500, and is that devoted to the program, like cost? I mean, like just the driver's ed, I mean, that's like over $12,000 if all of your high school students participate in that. So do you use those funds for that kind of thing, or is that your salary? Is there a split? What's the budgeting of that?
It's all.
Okay.
Yep. So when we submit our plan at the beginning of the year, we also put a money amount, a budget amount for each of those things. We can't, and so like for driver's ed, it hasn't been the 12,000. It's been quite much lower than that.
Okay.
But everything again gets sent to MDE, and then they let us know if we need to make any changes or things like that. But yeah, as far as Raven's salary, driver's ed, everything that we've talked about tonight, it's all from that 63.5.
I'm not, it's not a commentary on the program, it's just that'd be a huge chunk of your budget, so that's why I was just clarifying if that was, that was all that you have to work with, or if it's, okay. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Raven.
Thank you. And then you're up next again
Yes.
for
So-
MTSS
A
update.
different topic. So MTSS. So this is year 4 with implementing this framework district-wide. So if you want to go to the next slide, it explains more what MTSS is. Basically, it's that mindset framework of when we say we're supporting all students to be successful, like our vision and mission talk about, this is kind of how we do it, is what MTSS is, multi-tiered systems of support. Again, it's that academics and behavior, it's holistic. So one way you might want to think about MTSS is all those small arrows are all the different things that we do in the district, whether it's transportation, whether it's classes, whether it's assessments, whether it's field trips like we talked about, all those different things, maintenance, sports, everything. What MTSS does is attempts to bring all of those together moving forward in an aligned way. So it's all about alignment with MTSS. Next one. So this just shows just an overview, very brief overview of how we have gone from in 22, 23 with the initial administrator training out, and now we're implementing it. And for this school year, the two kind of things to note is that we've created 5 district-wide goals, which I'll go through in just a little bit. And that's based on a self-assessment that we do annually. Again, this is all through the guidance of MDE and their Compass program. And to note also that the grant that we received last year was for last year and this year, and then it ends in June. But we just heard that there's funds available for applying for a second grant for MTSS. So we'll be going for that as well. All right, next. So with MTSS, it's 5 different areas where we call the core components. Everything from infrastructure, which is kind of your staffing, your curriculum, your teams, all of those resources, that strong foundation, which allows you to do the other 4. They're all connected, there's no hierarchy with these. Assessment, where we're looking at student data, so we can see if we're saying we want all students to be successful, where are we at with that? We need to assess students, use that data, and then the next one to make those decisions of if we're seeing that students are really strong in this area or struggling in this area, then we make different changes to make sure that all of our students are being successful. The multi-layered practices and supports, that's what a lot of people might think of with MTSS. It's that tiered, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So that's looking at, as we're instructing students holistically, making sure that they have what they need when they need it. So looking at our classrooms, our general ed classrooms, do our staff have curriculum? Are they trained in it? And how are students doing in the mainstream classroom? And then if students need extra support, then we have that tier 2, which is more like kind of a small group. And then if students need additional support, because they're still struggling in a certain area, then that tier 3 is more of a one-to-one or a really small group, more intensified. And then the last piece, then again, is looking at how we can make sure that we're communicating and building that relationship with families in our community. So and that's one area that we're really looking at. How can we make sure it's a two-way, not just we're sending emails, we're sending information out to families, but how can we make sure that we're getting information back from them as well? So for each of those 5 components, we created a district-wide goal. And so that's what I'm going to go through in these next 5 slides. So for infrastructure, again, that's looking at kind of the foundation of what we do. We're looking at teacher collective efficacy, because that's one of the most effective ways to make sure that students are doing well, is if teachers believe that they have the capacity to meet the needs of students. So we did a teacher survey to see kind of how they're feeling about those different pieces, and then from the results of that survey, then each building did different PD and discussions on that. For assessment, so 3 times a year we do our FastBridge screener, and so with the assessment piece, our goal was to have a self-evaluation fidelity check. So as the teachers are giving the FastBridge screener, there's a checklist that they're going down to make sure that they're giving all the right information, that things are set up the way the test is intended, so we can get the results that we need. And so it just shows with the different grades the specific subtest from FastBridge that the fidelity check tool is being used for. Next one. For database decision-making. So we've made a lot of steps into understanding EduClimber and using that around the district. And so our goal around that is to have staff be able to create a custom data wall, which basically you can take EduClimber as all the data that we have of students, but you can be very specific to say, this is the kind of data I'm looking for these students, and then you can have that in one data wall and then make decisions based on that. So in a classroom, maybe you'll have a middle school math teacher who's grabbing different pieces of data on their per hour to know where their students are, even in reading. Because 85% of a student's day is based in reading. So even math teachers, social studies teachers, science teachers can use this data in different ways. So we want to make sure that all staff around the district are really understanding how to use EduClimber in a really effective way, and data walls are that. Next one. The multi-layered practices and supports, that's our instructional strategies. Like, how are we in the classroom, what kind of instructional strategies are we using to make sure that students, that we're teaching the way that the curriculum is intended. And so we developed and piloted a walkthrough tool, K-12, and you can see in K-8, especially because those are newer curricula with CKLA and Amplify, creating a walkthrough tool. So whether it's administration or peer coaches, if they are going into the classrooms, they can see that kind of a checklist almost where, like, yes, the lesson is being taught the way it's described and the ways it's laid out in the curriculum. So we're doing it to fidelity. And in the high school, then it's in the science area, making sure that the lessons in the curriculum is being implemented the way it's designed. And then for that fifth one, family and community engagement, again, we're looking at how we're building relational trust with our families and making sure that our staff feel like they are confident and competent to do that. So we're looking at kind of the Hornet Way. That's a unifying message around the district, and using that in staff newsletters to kind of guide and encourage staff as they connect with families, and then looking at, again, how they connect with families, making sure that whether it's Seesaw or emails or phone calls, however it is, that we're using this unified Hornet Way and thinking through how we're making sure we can engage families and partner with them. Next slide. So in looking at and planning for next year, these are 5 kind of bigger areas that we're looking at expanding and improving. For the first one, really excited. We've most MTSS work has been done K-12, and there's beginning to have an early childhood component to that. So we want to be on the front end of that. So we're starting to connect with our early childhood leaders there and looking at how can we implement MTSS E12 versus just K-12, which we're mainly currently at right now. The second piece is we want to have more fidelity checks. So branching out into other curricula and other subjects to make sure, again, that when teachers are using their curriculum, they're using it the way it's been laid out in the curriculum so we can make sure that it's being done well. Next one, to align goals across the district. Again, part of MTSS is all about alignment. And so if there's, maybe Liberty has these goals, but the middle school has these goals, if they're not connecting, we're not seeing how we can really make sure that we're supporting the K-12 or E-12 pathways for our students. So we want to make sure that there's alignment across the buildings around our district. We've done a lot of, that's been a strong suit, I would say, in these last 2 years, especially around the district, but we want to continue to have even more alignment. For the fourth one, our Tier 1 instructional practices, again, looking at when we want to make sure that, as an example, let's say for 4th grade, that any student who goes into 4th grade, any of those teachers are well-trained and their instructional strategies are research-based and high impact. So we're looking at across the board, all of our classroom teachers to make sure that there are a set number of kind of district-approved research-based instructional strategies that we know are going to have high impact for students. And then that last one, to improve family and community engagement. Again, it's an area where we've made a lot of growth, but there's also ways, especially that, to have that reciprocation of communication from families to the district. I put one more on there, but it didn't get on this slide. I'm not sure if it's been talked about much, but you'll learn a lot more about CAPTE Read Basics in just a second. But that's a new statute from MDE on a grades 4-12 assessment to see if if students have characteristics of dyslexia. And so that's something where this year we're starting it for the first time, and that'll be something that we're implementing even more next year. Katie and Ryan will be coming up in just a second to give you more information on CAPTE Read Basics, but that's one of our goals for next year as well. So before they come up and talk about CAPTE, are there any questions about MTSS?
You mentioned the MTSS grant that comes up. How many, do you know yet, like how many years that would provide or anything?
It came out just yesterday,
Okay.
so I haven't gone through the information. My guess is the first year the first grant, which is the one that we have, was 2.5 years about. I'm guessing the second one will be that, but I don't know specifically. I have to look into that. Good question.
Do you, so I remember Ms. Anderson providing data when we first kind of started the MTSS process about what percentage of our students were in Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, you know, with the goal of getting Tier 1 to be, remind me what the number is, 80?
80%.
80%?
Yep.
Okay. So do you have any data, like what each building is at right now? Like,
I didn't include that, though that's something that we're looking into, especially as we just finished our winter window of our FastBridge to know what progress students have made in the first half of the year. But that's definitely something we'll be looking at and planning for at the end of our year. We'll be able to see the growth and be able to report that.
that'd be great. Yeah, just, I mean, you know, newish program. I know you've been working hard on it the last few years, but just to see the progress that's being made would be helpful.
Yes, definitely.
Any other questions before we move on to the second part of the presentation? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so this is why you get the bonus CAPTE. So CAPTE Read Basics is part of the new MDE requirement. And so we had Ryan and Katie present to our MTSS district team, and Mr. Trubenbach said, "That's really good information." And so he said, maybe they can come back and present to the board. So with that, Ryan and Katie are going to walk you through our newest assessment to our platform.
I think he actually said it was the best presentation he'd
I
ever
think he
seen.
did.
Yeah, it
So-
was top notch.
Make sure we know that.
Yes,
All
yes.
right.
All
right.
Introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Katie Onenson. I am a literacy specialist and the district literacy lead.
And I'm Ryan Purdy. I'm the E12 data integrationist in DAC this year. So we're here to talk a little bit about CAPTE Read Basics.
Yeah, so it's a new requirement from the state. So we've had requirements for K-3 students to be screened for dyslexia and other reading difficulties for quite a while, actually, in the mid 2010s. So Minnesota passed a rule that we were supposed to do that. We started universal screening not too long later, so we started making steps, but they didn't have any specific information about what assessments were sensitive enough to identify if students had characteristics of dyslexia and other reading difficulties. So we've been doing those for a while, and the K-3 ones, we use FastBridge. For 412, though, we use CAPTE, and this is our first year of using that assessment. And what the statute says is that we have to look at students who are performing below grade level and in grades 4 through 12. So what's really cool about Read Basics is that it helps tease out things that are more specific, kind of like FastBridge does for K-3. So there's a lot of similarities to that, but it's a little bit different because as students progress, their needs change and their abilities change.
And this year, so the statute does say grades 4 through 12, but this year, because it's our first year rolling this out and just looking at the capacity of,
Yeah.
as Ben said, our infrastructure, this year we focused on 4th through 10th grade this year. And then districts around the state are kind of setting what below
Yeah.
grade level looks like, again, based on resources and capacity. So we looked at students below the 25th percentile in grades 4 through 10 this year.
And a lot of that is because those are students that are also receiving intervention. So being able to identify, because CAPTE is not only a screener, but it is also diagnostic. So we can use that information to give us really good specific information about what our students know and can do. So there are 4 subtests required for CAPTE this year. The first one is word recognition and decoding. And basically it just says, or it just asks students, can you read real words? Can you identify when words aren't real? And then can you identify when words are spelled so that they sound like a real word but aren't actually a real word? So those are the basic things for word recognition and decoding.
So an example of this is they might see on the screen the word class but spelled with the K. And so then they have the options. This isn't a warm up to kind of get kids used to that idea. So then they would have to identify, as Katie just said, is that a real word, not a real word, or does it sound like a real
Yeah,
word?
and it's because we know that kids can decode, but we also need to know that they can encode. So they need to be able to spell as well, because it's a really important skill. The second required subtest is vocabulary, and it asks students, do you know the meaning of words? Do you know how words are related? And then it also looks at student knowledge of tier 2 words. Those are just words that are used across multiple contexts and subject areas, and tier 3 words, so words that are more specific. So for example, a word like isotope or kinetic or parallel or other math and science words that I'm not as good at because I'm literacy specialist. So anyway, that's what it's looking for. Did you want to say anything else about that?
No, that's,
All right. The third test is on morphology, and morphology is just a fancy way to say word parts. So it wants to know, do kids have enough sensitivity to understand when a word changes and how its meaning changes? So for example, they might see the 3 words teacher, teaching, and teaches, and there'll be a sentence that said the blank started class, and they have to identify that the correct word is teacher. So understanding how the morpheme suffix changes the meaning of that initial root word. And also syntax. I mean, that's a nice thing to throw in there too. How words make sense in a sentence. And then the last assessment that we gave, the last subtest, is reading efficiency. If you know what a maze test is, sort of similar to that. When I gave directions to the 4th and 5th graders, I said, think of it like a Mad Lib, except for there is a right answer. You don't make it silly. That doesn't make sense. But basically what it does is it assesses their automaticity. So the students read a sentence, and then they have to fill in a blank with a word that makes sense. And as they are answering that, it builds a paragraph or a story. So pretty simple, but we both really like that test, so.
it's neat. It's neat. I
That's
mean,
cool.
you're not sitting there watching the students screamed as you're walking around the room, just monitoring. It's neat to kind of see
Yeah.
the passage kind of build and as
And
they're.
they're making their own work.
They're adding the words that they
Yeah.
think are correct,
Right.
based on the context
Not
around
right
it.
and bad.
Yeah, yep, exactly. All right.
So there are 2 other subtests that we didn't do this year. One
Sentence
was sentence processing and the other one was reading comprehension. So speaking with colleagues from other districts, it's about a 2-day testing window then.
Yeah.
If you're doing all 6 subtests, it takes about 75 minutes.
Yep. And
That's the other nice thing about the test in general. It's broken into those 4 subtests. And then on average, each subtest is about 5 to 8 minutes, 5 to 9 minutes, with the exception of reading efficiency, which can go up to 13 minutes, depending on how the student's doing. Because it's a timed test, so it's actually seeing how long it takes them to do that.
And next year, the state is requiring us to also do sentence processing and reading efficiency, or no, sentence processing and reading comprehension. So we'll have to add those next year. So there'll be some scheduling things that we have to figure out, but that's just part of the process.
When did you get these assessments?
We just finished last
Yeah,
Friday.
So I think we gave our first test at the end of January with our 9th graders, and then we moved into with our Independence Elementary the next week.
Yep, the first
and
week of
then-
February was
yep,
Indy, so we
And
assessed
then
the 4th and 5th
middle
graders.
school the week after that, and then we wrapped up with our.
So is the point to give them the first part of the year a chance to learn it?
Um,
class?
That's a good question. We can give Read Basics anytime throughout the
Okay.
year. We chose to do it in the winter because we wanted to have those 2 other testing windows under our belt before, so that we could use the data to determine who we were gonna
We
assess.
used our fall data universal screening data from the fall to kind of make our initial determination of who
And
Yeah.
that
who would be candidates
was
for
what,
this.
Ben was talking about.
Correct,
Yes.
yes.
That's when they did, I meant
Yep.
to ask Ben, so they do that.
Mhm.
And then that, because then it gives you time to give them to who if they need help. Who are we giving these kids to?
Yes, so
Like
we have
you?
interventionists that support
Okay.
our students, and the data from the Read Basics
Right.
assessment gives them very specific information about
Right.
their students and what they can do and what they need to do with them to make them more successful.
Thank you.
Next one. Oh, yeah.
Are in intervention but haven't taken the, CAPTE Read Basics test. And I'm just wondering if it gives you such useful diagnostic data, if that's, something that would be considered,
Yeah, that's a really good question. Our intervention has entrance criteria and exit criteria. So depending upon where students place in that entrance criteria, that would determine it. Most of our students in intervention are below the 25th percentile. I think there are just a few outliers based on need from previous, or they started at a really low percentile and we've actually exited a lot of kids out of our intervention program
so exciting.
this year.
Yeah.
So
So exciting.
we're
Yeah.
so excited about that. So we are making such good gains as a district, and system-wide change is really slow and really difficult. So we just know that it takes quite a few years to really see those changes, but we have some early wins, which is really
It's like
exciting.
when you see glaciers. We
Yeah,
don't see
right.
them.
Just exactly like
But yeah,
that.
that 25th percentile is kind of our first pass for, that's our first kind of data point that we're looking at, and then look at all the other associated data to make those intervention decisions.
So that corresponds with the kids that would be in intervention
Yes,
already
Yes.
anyway.
we're hoping that we can expand that because we do find the data really powerful. And it also gives us a good look at our system and what we need to do instructionally. So there's lots of really good things that we can pull from that.
Yeah, and we'll get into this in just a moment, but yeah, because some of the questions that have come up this year would be, and we were just talking about for placement for Tri-3, a couple of students here at the middle school, but their auto reading scores on their universal screener are in the some or high risk categories, but their A reading score is, I think at the 40th percentile, so right there on the line and okay. And then when they took we followed up with the diagnostic of the CBMR to assess fluency, and that was okay. But so when we look at these CAPTE though, it kind of then adds like another little layer. So kids where you're like scratching your head a little bit, like I'm not understanding why this isn't adding up. It peels back another layer to kind of, it's like, okay, word recognition and decoding is fine, vocabulary is okay. Oh, the breakdown's kind of in morphology and then reading efficiency.
Yep, and we'll show you some more specific things later or in a little bit actually, but that kind of help us determine like what we need to do as a team and as a district.
We could probably roll, it's kind of hard to read through, and you can kind of peruse through this these are just kind of some of our grade level as we're looking. You can kind of see, I'll just kind of explain the bars and the colors and all the dots there. So you can kind of see, you have strong performance, just go to the left, yeah, high average, low average, and then weak performance. So you can see those are where the corresponding colors are. Those numbers might be a little bit different now because I think you did some makeups also with maybe some 4th and 5th graders, not by much, but.
Yeah, just some kids that weren't able to be there because they were on vacation. Those little stinkers.
Yeah. So there's 4th grade, and we can just kind of roll kind of our 5th.
And when you're looking at this, if you look at it later, just keep in mind that these are our lowest our 0 to 24th percentile kids. So it looks really alarming, but I think they kind of were where we would expect them to be.
Yeah. And when you look at that, when you do see the greens and the blues in there, you're like, hooray, what is that? Yeah, so.
Well, I was also thinking too, like if you're able to do this more diagnostic or, test with more breakdown of needs, and they are in intervention, hopefully you're able to move those kids faster out, really target what they need. I mean, you've already identified them, so now you know what it is, and then hopefully they can move out and then increase those numbers.
Absolutely, and I think it is another thing that'll help us select better resources,
Right.
especially for intervention as
Yeah.
well. And Minnesota just released the intervention list. Well, not just, it was a little while ago, but not that long ago. But that has all the approved interventions as well. So that is helpful too, because some of those are actually linked in CAPTE in the platform. If you look at a student information, it'll say like, this student needs this thing. And so that is super helpful because then we know exactly what we need to do. some of them cost money and some of them are free. So that's some really good stuff about it too.
It's a nice platform as far as looking at student data, as Katie was starting to say. So this would be kind of the student view. So if you were to pull up a particular grade level, students would be listed there on the left. You have the coding there on the left. So the L, which was the low average,
I think it's just low.
low, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have their separate strands kind of going across that way. So those are each of the 4 subtests. We're gonna get to the word decoding threshold
Yep,
next, right? Yeah,
yep,
so
we are.
yeah, we can keep going.
All right.
There we go.
This is the stuff that makes me really excited. You can tell I'm a literacy nerd because I'm like, yes. All right, so the decoding threshold is fairly new research, and what it is the point at which reading becomes accurate and automatic. The reason that it's such a big deal is because when kids meet that decoding threshold, they're able to decode at a rate fast enough to understand what they're reading. Until they do that, though, their cognitive energy is all taken up by figuring out what the words say on the page. So even though we have structured literacy instruction, especially in our primary, we have really good curricular resources, those things still are a struggle for some of our students. And so the decoding threshold just tells us that, hey, these kids aren't quite there yet. And so if you go to the next slide, oh, sorry, it was John, thank you. This is, I think, the best thing I've seen for helping me understand the decoding threshold. So basically, with the decoding threshold, we have words that are phonetically regular. They follow really typical rules that kids are used to seeing. So bat and ball are CVC, CVCC. Then we go to the next one, we have outside, under, and nature. So lots of multisyllabic words are compound words, and then some of them just follow regular phonics rules. Where the decoding threshold is actually that next step up. So words that are irregular, words that have open syllables, words that have a morphological irregularity like the Y and spiny, these are the places where that's where the kids really start to struggle. And so being able to identify that that's the place, we know that there are some things that we can do as a district, as teachers, to support our students in crossing that decoding threshold. So focusing on things like that and that instruction is really important.
And looking at multisyllabic decoding across content area, across
Yes.
grade level, is one of those ways that we can move the proverbial needle for a lot of our students. is
Yes.
Getting that support across.
Yes, and
content
so
area.
Ben had mentioned earlier those research-based instructional practices and strategies. That's one of the ones that we are hoping to push out into 312 next year. So just because we have this data, now we can do something with it, which is
And what's
really
nice about that,
exciting.
though, it's the content or the vocabulary, the
Yep.
words that are already embedded in that
Yep.
content area. So it's not adding more to it, it's just using the words that you already have in your content.
Yes. All right, so in Read Basics, a score of 235 on the word recognition and decoding subtest is the decoding threshold. So that's that sensitive data that we need to help us figure out exactly where our students are. A score of 250 is at about grade level, but a score of 270 means that students are able to efficiently read more complex texts. So any things like social studies, science, that kind of stuff, we need our kids to get there because we need them to be able to do that all by themselves.
And on the CAPTE, and we'll get into like what it looks like, but if a student is scoring below the decoding threshold, CAPTE will actually make the recommendation not to continue on with the other,
The reading
the reading
comprehension,
comprehension subtest because they said like it's not, it'll be,
It'll just be
yeah,
frustrating.
it'd be frustrating
Yeah.
for them, yeah.
And we don't want to frustrate our kids. We want them to sit in productive struggle because that's good for kids, it's good for people, but we don't want them to be frustrated. So these scores I took directly from our data in CAPTE, and you can see they're just different buildings. So I think we have Indy and the first two, and then the middle school, and then the high school. So basically what that shows us is we have those kids that we tested, remember that they're below the 25th percentile. We have a lot of kids who have not hit the decoding threshold. So this information just tells us like, okay, now we know that, and now what they're telling us is when kids aren't hitting that decoding threshold, we need to focus on multisyllabic word decoding. So that's one of those things that we talked about a little bit ago as well. And this I think is really interesting too. So these are students in our district, and it shows, so I cut off their names, I just put that little information in there about their scores. But you can see on the one up on the left, so the first student scored a 202 on their word recognition and decoding subtest, so we know that they didn't hit the decoding threshold. Their vocabulary is a little bit higher, which is great. Their morphology isn't quite as high, but morphology is a more difficult skill. And then their reading efficiency isn't very fast. Well, if you're not past that decoding threshold, it makes sense why your efficiency wouldn't be very good, right? So if you look on the bottom right, we have students that performed well on that word recognition and decoding subtest. So they passed the decoding threshold, which is what we want. But then if you look over at the other scores, so take that top one where they're green and it says 260. Their vocabulary, though, is a 231. Their morphology is a 240, so that's red and yellow, so that's still low. And their reading efficiency is a 227. So we know, this is what's really cool about this test. We know that even though they can decode, they don't know enough about vocabulary or morphology to do well on their reading efficiency. So then we know instruction needs to focus on vocabulary and morphology. So it's all these little things that we didn't know before that now we know. So this is why this test is so valuable. That's a really good question. Yes and no. Basically what we notice is if our students don't score well on their vocabulary subtest, they also don't score well on their reading efficiency subtest. So there's definite correlation between what I know about words and what I understand when I read. So those things are intricately tied. That's not the word. Inextricably tied is what I was trying to say. So
You can't pull them apart.
no, you cannot. They're stuck together like peanut butter and jelly.
This is one of the cool things that Katie mentioned earlier. So every student, when you're looking at their data, you can click on their name and then you can click on these resources. So it gives you the score that they got, and then it gives you this narrative. Actually, on the main overview of each student's page, it'll give you a narrative for each of the subtests and then give you some information on that, where they're falling grade level equivalency wise, and then what work they need before they're ready to move on to the next level. And then you get these kind of breakdowns here. And so you can see there's obviously a still image, but those are all hyperlinks. So these are actual resources, plans, products, strategies, artifacts that you can click on to find out how to support a student's development of vocabulary.
Yeah.
And what's really neat, we always kind of like mentally or sometimes physically high five when we see like some of the resources on there, because those are resources that we've talked about in the district before, and we've delivered professional development on like vocabulary and stuff. So it's nice to see that it's reinforced.
And that first one that says Beck, McCowan, and Kukin and Bringing Words to Life, Robust Vocabulary Instruction, that is baked into our literacy curriculum, which is really exciting because we know those good practices are there. So what we're doing is right. We're moving in the right direction and we're starting to see that data, so it's really great. All right, and what we can do about it. So there's a lot of stuff on here, and some of it is a little bit repetitious because good teaching practices are good teaching practices, and most of the time it doesn't matter what grade they're in. But these are some things that we can do in K2 to help our kids be ready for that assessment in third grade, but also to push them past that decoding threshold. So emphasizing phoneme grapheme mapping, so knowing that letters and sounds that they make match, and having kids map those over and over. And then not worrying so much about phonological sensitivity and phoneme awareness, because new research within the last year and a half says actually those activities aren't as important as we thought they were. So things change very quickly when it comes to that kind of thing. We want our kids to be released to read decodable text as quickly as possible after that direct instruction so that they get the chance to practice and they get to apply what they've been learning. And then direct explicit vocabulary instruction of both Tier 2 and Tier 3 words. We have been talking a lot about vocabulary word walls, not just for ELA, but also for other subject areas. They support our students who are struggling readers, they support our EL students, and what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So we wanna make sure that all of our kids have access to those kinds of things. And then always the goal of, well, not the goal, reading and writing are reciprocal, right? So in order to be good at one, you have to be good at both. So giving kids opportunities to be able to encode that stuff so that they can be efficient readers and writers. And so the next one are 312, so some really similar things. Releasing students to read grade level text was a little bit different there. That direct explicit vocabulary instruction, and I would argue too that it's not just vocabulary because morphology is a part of vocabulary. Instructing and practicing multisyllabic word decoding is incredibly important, and that's one of those things that we need to make sure that we are doing consistently as often as we can across all of our curricular areas. And that morphology instruction, because knowledge is sticky, and those word walls are really important, and then again, providing daily opportunities for students to write. Again, that's baked into our curriculum, but that's baked into our ELA curriculum, but not all the others. So that's something that we look at also when we're looking at other curriculum, like even math, we're looking at things like that as well. Yeah, that's a really good question. So the research typically says that the more pencil and paper we do, the better, but any writing is good writing. So, but there's processes that happen in our brain when we actually put a pencil to paper that make it better for us to remember and make it stick, because it's a slower process.
Yeah, cognitive science actually says that, like, the two most efficient ways to move our short-term, the information stored in our short-term memory into our long-term memory is to give ourselves and our students opportunities to talk about it with each other and then to write down what it is that they're learning. So, and then as soon as that's in that long-term memory, then that reduces the amount of cognitive load that they have, which makes it better for them and less frustration.
Yeah. And that process, in case you're interested, is called myelination. So if you really want to dig into it, check it out. It's really interesting. But basically what it does is it creates these pathways in our brains that
The sheath around,
yeah, right.
around
So
the
it's kind of like
nerve.
if you're driving on. Oh, okay. I grew up in the country on a gravel road, and the road grader always went and made it like this, so we would be driving down the road and everybody would shake. But then they paved it, and so basically what myelination is just taking that gravel road that's rough and turning it into a paved road. So really cool, and those things help our kids retrieve information a lot faster from their long-term memory, like Ryan said.
So next steps for this process are to dive deeper into the results that we've had, and then share that information out with families
Yep.
of students who took the CAPTE Read Basics, and then also start getting this information out to our specialists and our teachers who work with these students who are,
Yep. This year, well, I'm hoping that they are above the 25th percentile, but next year, depending on where they're at in the system, we may bump that up a little bit because we can, if we can afford it, because, I mean, nothing is free. So anyway, but as much as we can, because it would, yeah. We're not sure yet,
yeah,
it'll depend.
we have to, yeah.
That'll,
Yeah, it,
Gotta bring your plate.
it's different, yeah, that's part of the conversation, like, what do those thresholds look like next year and at which grade levels? And
absolutely,
Yeah.
I agree.
yeah, and it,
So if you bump it to like 35% and somebody's at 30%, they, even though they've gone up from the 25th percentile, they might still, I mean, I don't know, sorry numbers out, what you're saying is they might still fit in that bracket
Yeah.
as of right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do want to track our students' growth over time. I think that's one of the benefits of EduClimber too, because like in FastBridge, you can only look at 1 year, but in EduClimber, you can look at it over multiple years. So that's why that's such a powerful platform. So that's just another thing that we can use to help see our students' growth over time.
I just wanted to, so I think it's an amazing use of technology, and I love it when a test actually means something, and we're not just testing because the state told us to, or because it, looked like fun. So I think this is a great use of technology. I just want to just put out there to the, to whoever might be listening that, when I ask about the writing, I love that you responded that as much as possible, you try to have our kids write pencil on paper. And we, as a district, you share that knowledge, and as a district, we understand that, and we're research-based, because I think there's a lot of concern that, maybe we've gone too far in the technology side in schools, and so I think it's really important that our public knows that you're making very intentional efforts to make sure that we're doing the best for kids and making sure that they are actually still able to write with pencil and pen on paper. And so I just wanted to put that out there just because, you know, I get the, you know, the privilege of hearing this a lot. And, you know, you're right up my alley. I mean, we can talk, you know, Milo Nation all you want later. But like I said, just to put that out in there to the wind that I think it's really important that our public knows that there's a lot of thought and science and just true passion that goes behind the curriculums and the practices that our students benefit from here in Big Lake. So I just want to, you know, throw that out there and then say thank you.
You're welcome. And our teachers have done such a good job diving in and trying new things, and it's scary. Change is hard, but they've done just a fantastic job of embracing the science of learning and of the science of reading. So.
Yeah.
Imagine if they read more at night, which is what, you know, we're all supposed to do with our kids, that they would ask more, or we would help answer those questions, or see where they're stuck on a word, and then you can, so it's not just about the reading part, it's about learning the word, what it means, how you can decipher the difference. But it's so hard, as everybody knows, when you are a family to get that. And then you have kids who don't want to read. I mean, I had girls, they were happy with it. My grandson wants nothing to do with reading.
Maybe you should do what we did.
Huh?
Our youngest would not, like, I had to fight with him, like,
Really?
he told him never to read a book. And then I saw, I'm not kidding, and people in this room know him. So I'm just gonna say, like, I just heard him, like, sounding words out one day, and I peeked in the room, he was trying to read a football card. And so I was like, guess what you're reading? Football card after football card.
Magazine, they say, I mean, you know.
Reading is not limited to books. And what did we just see the other day? Comic books are the gateway drug to reading, or to literacy. Comic books are the gateway drug to literacy. Yeah.
I mean, he learned to read, and he has, like, the most knowledgeable, if you ever need something for football. But he actually enjoyed it after that, but it's like, I think, cause
He finally,
just couldn't
he
sit
found
still
what
and
worked for him.
read a whole book.
And I felt that, you know, I don't know if they still do it, again, I mean, I'm in this weird spot of, ages, but, you know, the vocabulary words though too, it's not just about learning how to spell them, you know.
No.
Again, it's, you know, so, but if, it's hard for us to sit either with them or, you know, follow through. People, you know, a lot of the moms that are have the young ones don't want the homework anymore either. They're happy not to have the homework, but.
Well, that's what I've always thought about, because we had accelerated reading, I don't know if anyone else remembers that, AR. But, I think that was good and bad. Good because it forced the kids to read because part of your grade and all the testing and blah, blah, blah. But then technology really got smart, and then you have clip notes and everyone's screen, and, you know, I never did that.
Good job.
But then the bad part too is, I know that that costs a lot of money, and reasons I was supposed to explain. But, I've always thought about that. If AR is something that was so round, like, would it still provide value to our kids who need to read?
We have a program, it's not the same as AR, but we have this program that's actually free and it's connected directly to our curriculum called ReadWorks. And kids can read articles about their own ideas and their own topics that they're interested in, and then there is quizzes that they can take on that as well. And so it costs us nothing, which is really cool, and it's just another opportunity to give our kids more practice in reading and comprehension as well.
And we do, after every screening window, each building has their own infographic that goes home that says, you know, how you can support reading at home. And there's like QR codes and things on there, and it has like strategies that families can do, and some of them are big strategies and some are just like small, like little everyday strategies.
Yep.
Yeah, so,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Yeah, thank you for your time.
It was good. Thank you. We are going to move on to the financial report.
I guarantee we're not gonna ask this many questions.
I actually don't have much this evening, so yeah, I guess we'll dig right into enrollment, and that is definitely some good news. And I think I might have alluded to this last month that we've had an influx of students online, and so yeah, we were up on February 2nd, up 24 students from the prior month. And I did check it as of today, or actually as of this morning, and this enrollment is holding. So we're at about the same amount as we were on February 2nd. So it's not like they were here for a little bit and then left. They're still here. So that's great news. And then, so with that influx of enrollment, so if you look at the graph, we are right at budget. So you can kind of see those lines kind of coming together, right? Yeah, right there. So that is some great news that we're right at our revised budget and enrollment numbers. So that means that hopefully if that holds, we'll get exactly the amount of gen ed aid that I budgeted. So no changes, no budget revisions. And, oh, yes, and then I just included a slide at the end here. All this is doing is summarizing the work session that we had in February. And so I'll just go over each one. That will optimize staffing levels with board-approved class size ranges. We're going to evaluate special education caseloads for resource efficiency. And then strategic application of one-time categorical funding, and I use the example of like compensatory revenue funding. Utilization of restricted fund balance in compliance with statutory requirements, so just going through all of these restrictions and seeing where we can maybe do some shifts to help out the unassigned fund balance. Looking at transportation routes for maximum efficiency, and I think we're gonna have a meeting next week on that. And then just reviewing supply budgets for cost-saving opportunities, and do all that over the next, well, we've already been working on it, I guess. We've already been working on it, but we'll be providing a list to the board in March. And with that, that's all I have for this month. So brief, but I'll certainly entertain any questions if there are any from the board.
Any questions for Angie? Otherwise, we just need a motion to approve.
Just approve the financial report, correct?
Motion to approve the financial report?
Motion made by Shabilian. Second by Hancock. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Approve 26-27 LTFM plan revision number 2.
Yeah, so, oh yeah, can you enlarge that, John? Thank you. Yeah, that, right there, okay. So I think it was last month, TJ and I were here providing you with a different number. Do you see that highlighted? It's $2,031,000. Well, we've had some good news in that this particular project, the cost estimates are actually less. So instead of, yeah, okay, I have it written down here. We actually last month had asked for approval of $2,378,677, but that has decreased almost $350,000 to the $2,031,048. So then, if you can you go all the way down, John, and then scroll over? Yeah, okay, so I have a number highlighted right there. So what I had mentioned last month, so what that means is because the original project was approved by the state and we're already past the property tax levy deadline, that's gonna come through as an adjustment a couple years later. And so that's what I have to put in the plan that we send to Sarah Miller at MDE. So that is gonna be less of an adjustment than what we had you approve last month. So so good news in that the cost estimates are actually less than what we originally thought. So, but because of that, I do need your approval again. So if you want to close that out, and then just, we have a resolution. This is what the state requires. And it just basically says you are approving plan amendment LTFM plan amendment number 2. And it does require a roll call vote.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the LTFM amended number 2 plan.
Motion made by Shabilian, second by Brown. Any other discussion? Since it's a roll call vote, we'll start with Brown. Hancock. Sixberry. Reesner, aye. Shabilian. Nelson. Aye. The resolution passes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. TJ, presentation and acceptance of the 2026 middle school special education renovations bid.
Yes, so I've got some good news for you. This is our final bond project for the 21 bond. So this is to do the renovations for the middle school special education area, 4 classrooms. that we hoped to do last year, but given the performance of our contractor, we decided to hold off for a year. So our quotes came in $389,000. This is within our budget allotment, so I recommend approval for contracting with Versacon Inc. for the construction of the renovations and improvements here at the middle school.
I'll make the motion, to move forward with Versacon Inc., for that base bid price of, $389,000.
Okay, motion made by Sixberry. Second by Hancock. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. And then you're up again for pool.
Yes, so we have our first approval that I want to have for you for the pool for the finishes. So this is for the work inside the pool to replace our epoxy paint with a plaster product that'll be much longer lasting, as well as tile lanes. So this, we went through Sourcewell in order to get our pricing in time and in order to get this to happen, otherwise bidding and everything else. So this takes place for the bidding. It's Sourcewell contract, so it's nationwide. It's all predetermined contract pricing. They have over 300,000 line items that they can bid on, pre-negotiated, and meets all the requirements for bids. And you kind of have a little bit more direct control as well. So I recommend approving this with Acoustic and Associates for, it's actually a grand total of $199,220.56 for both the plastering and then also the sandblasting, because we have to have the existing material removed, so.
I'll make the motion that we move forward with the Sourcewell contract using,
Acoustics and Associates,
the
yeah.
amount of $199,220.56.
Okay, motion made by Sixberry, second by Nelson. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, TJ.
Yep.
Pursue achievement and integration funding approval.
I'm gonna let you tonight. I've never done this before, so I'll let you. Right? Keeping your attention going. So I am here to present to you about a new opportunity for Big Lake Schools. So every 3 years, the state of Minnesota opens up Achievement and Integration Aid. And so this is part of a multi-district collaborative plan. And the funding is to identify shared goals and strategies to increase racial and economic integration across districts. And St. Cloud Area Schools is considered a racially isolated school district because their district has a different demographic than all of the other districts that border them. So it used to be you had to touch a border with the racially isolated district to be included in this funding available. They have since opened this up and allowed other districts that have close location or that have proximity to the area to be included. And so St. Cloud asked if we'd like to join them. And so we have this opportunity to enter into this collaborative. And so the Multi-District Collaborative Council serves as required. It's a community-based collaborative body, and it helps shape the ANI strategies. And so some of the purposes and objectives are written in statute. And so you can see that one of their objectives is to pursue integration and to promote that integration within schools, to also increase achievement. And this is something that ANI is very strong in, is that it's to boost student performance for all students. And so although it looks like it is an achievement and integration for some students, it's not. It's for all students. And we know if we're doing good for all students, we're also going to start closing those gaps that we've had conversations about in our CASER reports. Creating equitable opportunities, having some staff development, having targeted support, and then they also lean heavily into the research-based equity concepts of access, representation, participation, and outcomes. So looking at Big Lake, we did a needs assessment back when we looked at our ADSIS funding and our title funding, so we were able to use some of that same data for us to be included in this. And so looking at our MCA, our students enrolled in dual enrollment courses our students graduating and then our staff development needs, we were able to then be considered to join this MDCC. And so here's just some of that same information I shared with you back in November in our CASA report, and we noticed that we do have a discrepancy in our data for math. So remember, ADSYS and title really focus on reading and behavior. So we would like to use this revenue to help us focus more on math. So we really focused on our math discrepancy data there, and then also across our race and ethnicity groups. So then we looked at some of our dual enrollment, and this is actually just our college and the schools that are from the University of Minnesota. They give us some data. I've been able to since pull all of our dual enrollment in our high school, and we do show a discrepancy also. So just even based on this turned into the state, they said that we would qualify for that. Our graduation data, I am happy to report, does not show a discrepancy, and so we have a really good graduation with our free and reduced, and also with our populations that have cell sizes over 10. So our graduation has been very good at our high school for that. So then looking at our goals, you have to have goals in 3 different areas. And so this is our academic achievement. And so again, I said I'd want to focus in math. And so when I come to the board, you have to approve for us to enter this, but I'm coming here showing you our whole plan, which isn't due until March, but I thought I'll share it with you since we're here. So what we'd like to do is really work on increasing our math achievement, and some of the strategies we're going to use is to hire a math interventionist and somebody who would help coach K-12. Something similar that Katie does for literacy, we would like to replicate that for math, so that we have somebody actually supporting, so that we're research-based interventions, so that what we're doing aligns to what we're supposed to be doing. We then also want to look at some student success support, so making sure that at our high school, as our kids are going from middle school into high school, that we're able to have opportunities to take some of those dual enrollment courses, and also just to make sure that we're on track for A's and B's and have somebody being intentional about watching that, and then being able to check in with our counselors and our social workers to make sure that our kids are on track. Another one of our strategies for this same goal would be Math Core, and this is something that we had done in the past, but something that due to budget enrollments, we would not be able to afford this year, and so this would be able to provide Math Core in both Independence Elementary and middle school, and allow for that math coach to be able to oversee that program. It would also, hopefully, we haven't quite done the budget yet, but maybe give us a little for to also provide responsive classroom training, which we've done at Liberty. And so we feel like that's a really strong program to get our kids going into that K-2 world. So this would offer us a little more budget for that. Second goal is we have to have an integration goal, and this is exactly like it sounds. We have to do something with St. Cloud. And so a couple opportunities that we have. One is a Math Masters integrated practice opportunity. So our middle school Math Masters kids get to either virtually or in person meet with their Math Masters kids and practice before they actually go into their Math Masters competitions. Another opportunity for us is called Communicating Common Ground. And this is actually a partnership with St. Cloud State. Dr. Etta Mutua has started in 2006. She started a program, and she she's a communications professor, and so she takes a few students from every district, and kids have to apply to get into it, and then they meet at St. Cloud State for their first after-school meeting, and then they meet at 4 other schools. So we at one point in the 3 years would host this, and then kids get together and they talk about diversity and communications and what that might look like, and they get to learn kind of at that college level through her TAs supporting that. So that would be another opportunity for us. And then our last goal is something that we have to have around professional development, and so this would be, our professional development would be that our staff over the 3 years would be trained in student-centered learning. And so part of what we kind of already do, and you heard Ben talk about MTSS already, and so this would give our teachers an opportunity to continue in our training and learning more. So funding for A&I, so A&I is state aid, so it's not a grant, it's actually state aid. 70% of it comes from state aid, 30% of it comes from board-approved levy. And so that's why you need to approve this, because that does come from board-approved levy. So the 3 ways that we get this funding is the lesser of, so I want to put that out there, the lesser of either the estimated amount of our October 1st student count, or after that October 1st, in December, the A and I people can say, oop, we got more or less than we actually have, so we can lower it again if we need. Or if we don't spend all of our money, they only give us the money we spend. So actually, I looked at this, and the new run says 319,000. You saw that too? Yep. So, so it does fluctuate. They keep fluctuating it. So our current estimated revenue, I'm gonna call it 311, because that's what I did. But I just wanted you to see the number, that then the state aid would be $218,000 about, and the levy to our taxpayers would be 93,000 about. And that would be dependent on the lesser of one of those three things. And then, oh, that's annually. We would get that annually, yep. Yep, so those are annually, so our district would get $311,000 about annually. Yes.
It would just take a little bit for the levy to catch up.
Correct.
But
It,
the aid would be intermediate.
yes. Yes, the aid is immediate, the levy always comes a little bit later, so. And then with all of our programs, our comprehensive achievement and civic readiness plan, our achievement and integration plan, and our strategic plan always have to align. And so as you can see, I kind of did all of that, so. So that is our achievement and integration. Any questions?
I have one question, but maybe for Angie, this is on the financial side of things.
Yeah, I mean, Angie can answer if you need, because we need approval from the board, and it has to be submitted by March 15th, so tonight's the night. If we want into this, this is our chance for the next 3 years. Otherwise, and it does have to be board approved.
Well, I definitely think that having an integrationalist, for math is gonna be huge and it's absolutely needed.
Especially when we're adopting math this year, and so this is just
And I
timely.
think
It
with
just,
the new standards are so different than what they've been.
yep, and the new teaching
That-
practices. I mean, just with all of it, this will
Oh,
be
yeah.
a huge benefit, even just that one piece alone. So, all right,
Did I hear-
question, yes, Chelsea had a question.
Well, so I guess what does that look like if you give me like an estimate for a tax?
$90,000 spread out over all our taxpayers.
Oh my gosh, that's very minimal. Yeah, I don't even know if it'd be $1. I mean, a month. Yeah, very minimal.
That's a guess, guesstimate.
Yeah,
'cause we
yeah.
don't- Yeah.
And I mean, I even think it would be
Yeah.
less than that, just because of, because the levy, because there's definitely more going towards state aid versus levy. It's a 70-30 split. So, yeah, very
We know
minimal.
how sensitive they are, so.
Mhm.
Yeah, no,
Absolutely, and that's why.
It's a good question.
Right, and that's why
Yeah.
we're bringing it here and trying to be as, thoroughly transparent as we can, because there is this shared responsibility to this program, so.
You're excited about this. You said.
I am very excited,
It
yes,
went away and you're
yes.
like,
Yeah, well, Big Lake Schools has never had this, so I've had this in previous districts, but we've never
But
had this
we had math
opportunity.
had
tutors
math
before,
We had,
or the math core, or not?
we've had math core before,
math
yes,
core,
Yes.
yes.
yeah.
And so this could bring it back.
This would bring it back, yes. Right now, but we wouldn't next year. We wouldn't next year, so, yeah.
Can I just clarify, so you mentioned that collaborative at the beginning, and
Yep.
I just wanted to clarify, do they have any influence or force behind their decisions that would affect us at the local level? So I mean, you get together and talk, but do their decisions impact us or override any of our board level decisions?
They don't override your board level decisions. The thing that the MDC is, we are dependent on St. Cloud to do our integration activities. So if something would happen, like they'd cancel Common Ground, the COVID year, they didn't do it. So if that would happen, we wouldn't get to do that. But then MDE has always been really good about saying, you tried.
Sure.
And so but other than that, the plan is ours. Each district has its own plan. The only thing that we do together are those shared activities.
And I just, I really am excited that our students will get to benefit from math intervention and have that in their classrooms. I think that's really, really important. And, had the operating levy passed, this source of funding might not have had to been pursued. But because we're in the financial situation we're in, we need to think about what's best for students. So I appreciate that you went out and did the work to find this other funding stream so that we can help improve our math scores in Big Lake.
I also think when you can match taxpayer dollars, 70 to
70,
30,
30.
that's really making value out of the money spent.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. I'll make the motion to move forward with this program.
Okay, motion made by Sixberry, second by Brown. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
So just so you know, I did work really closely with MDE since I already had this done. It's basically been approved, so we have been given the green light to move forward with our plan, although the actual letter won't come to us until June. But we told them like June is too far out to get started on this. So with your approval tonight, we will start putting these pieces into place. So thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minda.
Okay, on to first reading of policies, the ones listed there.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, we had a nice meeting last week, hour and a half-ish or so. Good discussion. We had reviewed a handful of items, and actually, I think there were some in the one read already approved. Yep. And there were also some first read. Would encourage you to take a look at those, and
See
it
if
should be
there's
good.
anything. Okay. School board committee representative updates. Finance, we haven't had anything. Policy, Ashley?
Mr. Jubenbach talked about that. So the legislature's back in session, so I've been enjoying streaming all the committee meetings in my ear while I go about my day. It's looking to be a very unproductive session. It kind of oscillates in the House depending on who holds the gavel, what the topics are that they discuss, but it's, still a couple weeks in, so a lot of the introductory yearly kind of updates to different programs. Couple things, just super minor. There's like a cell phone policy that got some, seems like it's, probably gonna pass, but it matches what our Big Lake current practice is, especially with the change we made last year or 2 years ago to the high school. So we shouldn't have any financial impact for that one. There's a, school safety bill and things like that. There is a bill about creating an educator insurance pool that would have a substantial financial impact to our district. So I thank you to our business office and HR office for getting me some data. So I shared that with MSBA, so their lobbyists. It has a hearing tomorrow morning, so they're just going to show that as kind of an example of one generic district that reached out, so they can say that it actually is not a cost savings to districts. In fact, in our district, it would add over $1 million to our yearly obligations. So, so just trying to keep aware of those bills as they come forward, so that can try and provide insight to the lobbyists or information to the lobbyists if it has a positive or negative effect for Big Lake schools. And then Schools Advocating for Fair Funding has their general meeting tomorrow. They were hoping to get an update on the financial outlook or financial forecast, thank you, but they've pushed that off another week. So they're still gonna have Adosh Uni talking there about some preliminary stuff, but until the forecast comes out, the February/March forecast comes out, there's not gonna be too much meat on the proposed targets, so.
We had a buildings and ground meeting right before this, and we discussed the bids, which we approved tonight. We talked about pool things, we talked about the special education areas. We also talked about LTFM money, and we've got some discussions we'll have in April around the track and some other needs that we see, and some repurposing of some spaces. That's something exciting to look forward to. I don't know if you want to add anything else, TJ, or if that's good for now. Good, okay. Any other groups that have met since last time? Probably.
We had right talk, but it was really just around structuring, all of our committees, so.
Okay, on to your report.
Trying to chew my
I know you are.
mint
I
before
made sure
have
that you.
So, Alexis let us know that she would not be here today, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna read her report. Probably not as well as she does, but I will just kind of fill you in on what's been going on with the high school. So, from Alexis, we had the Evening of Fine Arts. Many art students or local artists were able to celebrate their work on February 5th. We were able to see all the hard work they put into their art and show off their amazing talents. We had poetry out loud, poems, portraits, pottery, and this year's last one-act performance. And I was there that evening. It was great. They did a really nice job. Poetry out loud, Kyla Goswich and Linda Stokes have moved on to state competing this Friday in Mankato. Gymnastics, Leah Upoff on the bars, and I believe is it Kala? Kala, thank you. Kala Morris, thank you. For the all-around, head to the state as individuals. Big Lake High School choir, band, and jazz. Both the Big Lake High School choir and band students dedicated many hours practicing to perform for a judge at Solo Ensemble. Both groups represented Big Lake High School well, with the Big Lake High School band hosting at St. Ben's. The choir had an amazing concert Monday night, and the band this following Monday. There's one coming up, and I was going to mention that too. Lastly, at the Big Lake High School Jazz Band performed on February 14th at Lupolin's Jazz Fest, featuring a swing-style rendition of L.O.V.E. So I'm sure that was great. Big Lake High School holds a milestone 10th annual Youth Apprenticeship Signing Day. On Tuesday, February 17th, Big Lake High School held its 10th annual Youth Apprenticeship Signing Day. This honors the current student apprentices, that's right, who chose to pursue real-world experiences while still in high school. In addition to recognizing the family and community partnerships that make it all possible. Big Lake High School interior design, these students took a trip to IKEA this month to explore the principles of design. I bet that was really interesting. Big Lake High School wrestling, girls section tournament, first ever. Alexa Guy took first place, and Cora Rand took fourth place, and Grayson Mayer placed fifth. Super excited about the growing girls wrestling team. We've got great participants, and I think it's going to be great into the future. Epic had a virtual leadership review where they learned about what other youth are doing in Minnesota. And Alexis wanted to give a special shout out to the Big Lake High School Yearbook for working to build an amazing yearbook. National Honor Society for their hard work in our community, and Big Lake High School Prom Committee with the official theme out now. And I believe it is Evening of Greece, or Evening in Greece? Evening in Greece. So it's going to be pretty neat. So it's
Thanks for letting us know.
yes, that's awesome. It's
I was
good
gonna
stuff.
say, it might be worth noting that Alexa Guy moved on to state. She's at state right now.
Okay.
Which is like the first ever Big Lake female participant at state wrestling.
That is
So,
awesome.
and
When is
she's
she
a
actually
ninth grader,
wrestle?
right? Yeah.
When is she actually
She will
wrestle?
wrestle tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Couple
So,
times, yeah.
so stay tuned on
Yeah.
that. It
And you
is.
still have to follow a report and she's like,
I know, gal. She haunts me from I don't know. No.
from
Yeah,
Google space.
absolutely. I do have just a couple items here for my report. Just a quick update on the school year calendar. We are still working on it. I actually had admin kind of review a few drafts, and now I've reached out to BLEM leadership, and I'm just waiting to see when we can come together. Just a reminder, there is an MOU in place that requires us to review the calendar with BLEM before we officially take it to the board for approval. Target date is to have it approved next month. So just keep that in mind. I just want to update the board on that. As well as we have a community fair coming up on March 14th. It is from 10 to 1. And I know many of you have actually attended that. It's a really, really neat community event. And we're going to have tables. I know Stephanie's back there. We've got like 2 tables. It's always in the same spot when you walk in. We've got like the high traffic area. So if anyone is interested in coming, why don't you let me know after the meeting, and we can meet with Stephanie and just kind of if there's anything you want to have specific out there. I think last year we had a get to know your board member or something like that. Referendum. Oh, we had a lot more. Yes, we did, didn't we? Yes, all kinds of things. So we'll be working on some things, but I know right now, Stephanie, it's a booth about community ed stuff, and all right. So, but it's action packed. Over 1,000 people come through there. So
Do you have the little market out in the?
yeah, oh yeah, and there'll be the indoor farmers market and live music out in the entry area. So that's really neat. Like I said, it's really a neat community event. So if you haven't seen it, please come and check it out.
Every year.
And I know, I always see you
I
there.
know, I run into
Yep, always. So, and last but not least, from around the district, I know it was mentioned earlier, we had a great choir concert. Bree Hawkins and her team did a fantastic job. And just like Alexis said on her report, Band is next Monday, so I would encourage you to come and check that out. Students work so hard on this, and it's just wonderful to see them performing. It's really good stuff. I want to give a quick shout out to Ben Bonnet on a fantastic wellness day. Him and his team coordinated a great wellness day earlier this month, and great participation, great speaker. It was really a good day. Thanks, Ben, for all your hard work on that. And I want to mention just a huge congratulations to Shalyn Tordor for receiving going to be the new high school principal. We wish you luck on all of that. So I just know that in conversations with her, she's super excited. Yeah, I didn't tell her to prepare anything, but we're excited to have her in the position. I know she's going to do great. Looking forward to the future. So calendars, a couple things, just to let you all know. February 26th is Literacy Night. That is a PTO event, so I would encourage you to come and check that out. It is at Liberty this year, I believe. Yes, it is. And it's at 5:30. I think it goes from 5:30 to 7:30, I believe. 5:30 to 7.
Tomorrow night.
Yes, yes, it's tomorrow night. I'll be swinging by at the very beginning and checking out and kind of walking through and seeing what's there. Also, I know Ashley did mention SAF at the general membership meeting is tomorrow at 9 o'clock, and Ashley's going to be participating in that, as well as March 4th, SAF Day at the Capitol. Ashley's going to be there. If anybody's interested in going to the Capitol, please just let me know, and we can carpool or do whatever we need to happen there. MSBA, MASA Day at the Capitol. Ashley's going to represent down there. STEM Night is scheduled for March 12th at 5. Guaranteed to be a wonderful evening, as always. The community fair I mentioned on the 14th. Kindergarten registration. I believe you all received an invitation for
Yes.
that from Teresa. And it is on March 16th. That's a Monday, and it's from 4 to 6:30. Even if you can come for a little while, it's wonderful.
cute.
Those young families come in and they're excited, and you get the chance to introduce and welcome them in. And it's I know I'll be there. I'm guessing for the entire time. So please feel free to do that. Policy committee. On the 18th, it is at 5. Note the earlier start time because also that evening we have a 6 o'clock work session to continue that budget conversation piece. March 25th is our regular board meeting. I have a family conflict with my spouse earlier that day, so to ensure that I can be there, I am requesting that we move the start time from 6 to 7. It'd be the same evening, but like I said, I just want to be there for my spouse, so if I can just move it an hour later, I would really appreciate that.
You
So-
sure that works, then I'll just move it up a week?
Um,
I need to have you be.
I'll be there. We're good. We're good. I was given the green light. So, thank you. No, it's all good. It's all good, but I do need to be there for
Do we
her
have to
earlier in the
approve
day.
that or nothing?
No, I don't think we need to approve it. We'll just repost for it and the time change. So again, our regular meeting on the 25th will be at 7, not at 6. So that's, and yeah.
Here early.
Yes, and then also too,
An hour early.
I do want to mention that we had a fantastic history day. I know there were a few of us that were able to sit in and judge. I think I was there for 2 hours or maybe 3. So we had, is this an actual list?
No, that was
Just a reminder?
Yeah.
Yes, a big shout out. Thank you for the reminder on that. I don't like to forget these things. We're just busy. So no, the middle school does a fantastic job. Boy, I'm telling you, you come in here and that space, the new media center, it was great. It's the hub. Yep. It was.
That was a nice way to do it.
Absolutely. They had it divided out into different podcasts and different presentations, and it was really neat. I really appreciated that. So I know the social studies department worked really hard. Students worked even harder, which is great. So it's always exciting. They're always a little bit nervous, but it takes a lot of courage to kind of present to some strangers, and they had to present to 2. So great stuff. I learned some really cool things.
Yeah,
So
Depends on, I mean, it seems like whatever the theme is, they're always the same, some of the same topics.
Some of the
no
same
matter what
topics,
the-
but
But there were a couple this year, I'm like, whoa, this is awesome, I'm hearing something new for the
super.
first time.
Yes, it was super cool. Like there
Yeah.
was, we'll see
They
who
did a great job.
the ones that moved on. I haven't officially heard that word yet, but boy, there was some really quality projects too. So good job, middle school. Good job, students. Good job, teachers. So it's a big thing. It's a cool thing. 19th. Thank you, Jonna. Hey, you know what? So many things action-packed. Thank you for mentioning that. So March 19th is the 4th grade. 3 musicals. Are they
Nice.
repeats? Nice.
Otherwise, you'd be really packed in there.
Yes, I got to get that on my. 5:15, 6:15, 7:15. Thank you so much for. I did not want to forget that, Jonna. Thank you so much. So. Chelsea's daughter.
So actually, what you're telling us is we can't all show up at that one.
Yeah, that would be a
well,
quorum.
quorum.
That'd be a quorum.
I think we're safe, because I think I'm at the 6:15.
Okay, so she's at 6:15. All right, do I hear 7:15, 7:50? All right, that actually concludes my report, unless, of course, there's questions.
Any other questions for him? Okay, the board will have a closed meeting as permitted by Minnesota statute section 13D.03 to discuss Big Lake Schools' labor negotiation strategies related to negotiations with Big Lake Education Minnesota and Big Lake Administrators Association. I need a motion to enter calling the adjournment of the regular meeting. Motion made by Nelson, second by Sixberry. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The closed meeting will commence in 5 minutes at 7:38 in the Middle School Student Center. I will just adjourn the regular meeting. This meeting is adjourned.